Hello everybody and welcome to Judge Mathas, and today on trial stands a game in currently early access, and that is Plague Inc. Evolved. Now a lot of you might know this game because there is a free version out there that you can go ahead and play right now. I think it's just called Plague Inc. And there is a mobile version of the game. But this is a Steam version that is currently going to run you $15 or your regional equivalent. Now, since it is in early access, of course, that means it is unfinished. But I wanted to take a look at it and talk about maybe some of the differences and whether I think it's worth your $15 or not. So what are going to be the major differences in this version of the game compared to other ones? Well, the first one they're talking about is multiplayer. There's going to be multiplayer when it comes out. It's not fully done yet, obviously, but it sounds like the multiplayer aspect is going to be kind of cool, kind of racing your friends, being able to create two different diseases and kind of try and affect the world, see which one is more powerful, this, that, and the other. So that's kind of cool. But more importantly, what it sounds like is that the differences in the game are primarily going to be in the amount of content they can actually put into it. More mutations, different types of diseases, and all this other good stuff. But is it enough? Is it enough to make the game worth checking up and maybe buying into early access now? And that's kind of a question that I think is really difficult to answer on a general basis. I think the answer is very different from person to person, but we're going to play a little campaign and we're going to talk about the game. Maybe you've never heard about the game before, and I am here to inform you of that. So, Plague Inc. is kind of a strategy simulation game. The idea is to create a disease and to take that disease in its infancy and then evolve it over time to infect and destroy the entirety of the world. Really happy game, right? There are a few different scenarios you can do. You can play the main game, which is the game everybody knows, which is just creating that disease and moving on. We have a speed run, which is how fast can you destroy the world. Official scenarios, which is, I don't know if this is on the mobile, but it is recently updated on the early access of this game, where you could take real world and real life diseases and and basically take like something like the Black Death and then kind of modify it for our time and try and destroy the world with it. And then you can create your own scenarios later on in the game, and there will be a tutorial eventually. These last two are not in the game yet, but we're gonna go ahead and play a regular game. The next step is to decide what kind of disease you want. Now, I haven't unlocked any of the others. I have played the game 3 times. Wow, excuse me. Hiccuping. Whew. I have played the game 3 times now, and I have not even destroyed the world once. So the game can be pretty difficult. But as you play, you're going to unlock different types of diseases, whether it be a virus, a fungus, a type of worm, a parasite, all kinds. There is definitely lots and lots and lots of different types of abilities. And what's the difference? Well, they're going to tell you. So for instance, if I do bacteria, which is the only one I'm going to be able to do, it's the most common cause of a plague and unlimited potential. But then we can do stuff like necrovirus, which unclassified early analysis suggests extreme regenerative abilities, so it sounds like it'll be really hard for them to kind of wipe out. If we go even further, you can do a bioweapon, exceptionally lethal pathogen that kills everything it touches, so really high kill rate. Immune plague, no cure, cheat, impossible to find a cure for the plague, so this is something that no one can cure, it's just for you to play. Then you get, these are all like cheat ones down here, unlimited plague, hidden plague, so they can't find it. But each one plays very differently in what its specialty lies. So, like I said, if you're gonna do something like the bioweapon, it's gonna be very volatile. It's gonna kill very quickly. But because it kills very quickly, it's going to be noticed by the public a lot quicker, obviously. And that's one of the fun things about the game. But we'll go ahead and hit next. And then if you want, you can actually modify the gene with other things that you unlock. So this game is definitely not without its unlockables. There's a lot here and a lot you can modify to kind of create your own gene and see it play out. I obviously haven't unlocked any of that. We're going to go ahead and continue. And then we're going to pick the difficulty. We're going to have, and it tells you the difference. So casual, basically nobody washes their hands. Doctors don't give a shit. Basically, it's a world full of disgusting people. Then you have normal, which is what I've been playing on, where majority of the people wash their hands in the world. Doctors work a normal week, essentially, and sick people are ignored. And then things like brutal, where people are compulsively washing their hands. Doctors work around the clock, and sick people are locked in prison. And then mega brutal, genetic drift impacts evolution. Doctors invest in research and random medical checkups. So it's just a police-run world of medicine. But we're going to go ahead and hit normal. And we're going to call it the Pax Plague, because that is the most recent thing I did. So the idea of the game, like I said, is to infect the world. So how do you do that? How is it? How does the world work? Well, the world is being simulated. Things are happening around the world. Random events are occurring, whether they be natural disasters, big happy events, and all this other stuff. And we first have to choose a country where we're going to start. Now, this is important because depending on where you go, will determine on how difficult it is to spread your disease. So if we pick something like the US or Canada, things are going to be a little bit more difficult because they are a first world country. So medical expenses and all that good stuff are going to be higher end. So having the plague be discovered early on is not necessarily having the plague being discovered early on is something that you can expect to happen if you don't play it smart. While we go somewhere like maybe Africa, in some middle of nowhere Africa, things are going to be a little bit more difficult for them. They don't have a lot of, they don't have a lot of as high of medical value as something like US, and it'll be a little bit easier for us to spread our plague there. Now, of course, if we go to Africa, the heat's going to be a lot more, depending on where, obviously, in Africa we go. But with heat being a problem, we're going to have to evolve our disease that way, and we'll talk about that as we get there. So let's go ahead. You know what? Let's go to Angola. I don't even know. They've got, all they have is, it looks like roads. This is also important. So if we go to Canada, it'll show you some basic information about the country. Its population, the different types of travel they have, road, boat, and airplane, and it looks like weather. Over here in Central Africa, all they have is roads, so getting the disease to spread outside of this country is going to be a little bit more difficult than usual. And it's a very hot area, it's a poor nation, and it is got maple leaves. I don't really, is that drugs? I don't know what that means. While we go over here, and it's just gonna be they're a poor country and they have maple leaves. I don't know, it's gotta be drugs. It's probably drugs. My guess is drugs. Maybe it means rural area. So obviously the choice of where you're going to go ahead and oops, well, we're going here. We're in Saudi Arabia. I didn't mean to pick that. So obviously the choice of where you're going to go is gonna impact how you end up playing your disease. Next, what happens is now you kind of wait. So you've infected your first person, and as the disease evolves, these little bubbles are going to pop up, and basically it's your job to click on them, and when you click on them you get disease points, and then you use these disease points to evolve your disease. You have 3 different things you can choose from: transmission, so obviously how the disease is transmitted; symptoms, which is important; and abilities, which is their resistance to medicine, their hot and cold, and etc, etc. Now, this is where the fun of the game truly comes in my opinion. Because of the idea of infecting the world, you're kind of racing against the clock. Essentially, right away, the disease isn't really noticed by doctors, right? Makes sense. Nobody's really noticing the disease. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any symptoms right now. It doesn't have any ways of being transmitted. In fact, it's just a little bacteria that's infected one person and doing nothing. So now you have to make a decision. How do you want to infect the world? Obviously, you want to get across the world as best you can. How do you do it? Do you want to make a really volatile disease that's going to have people hacking and coughing and killing people very rapidly, and hopefully you can spread super fast and kill the world before they come up with a cure? And that comes with its own problems, because as soon as the world takes notice of this thing, they will start working on a cure, and now it's a race against the clock. Or do you do something like I like to do, where I will work on its transmission effects and how it gets across the world, and its abilities and its resistance to temperature and medicine, and hopefully get it to spread across the world quietly before investing in massive symptoms, so that doesn't really get noticed. So you kind of spread it first and then you give it symptoms. Now, that's all well and good, and that works pretty well, but the only problem is, as the disease evolves, it will sometimes evolve and develop symptoms on its own without you investing. So there's kind of this balancing act you're constantly playing with the game. You kind of making your disease as subtle as possible or as volatile as possible, while still working within the confines of the disease evolving by itself and the world working against it. So let's play. So we are in Saudi Arabia. We have 1 person infected. We're going to go at ×3 speed. This place has, I don't know what that means. Can we look? So you can click on countries and get a general idea of what's going on, its total population, its health, how many have infected, how many have killed, its medical research, it's researching, and you can kind of, gives you a bunch of these graphs, but for the most part I've ignored them because you don't really need to take a look at it. But they are a hot country, and I don't know what that is right there. I wish I could take a look, but what we're going to do is, since it's a warm country, one of the first things I think we're going to invest in is heat resistance. So, cheap, clean power discovered. Green tech firm claims to have developed a new power station runs entirely blah, blah, blah. So, random events will happen. You can take a look at the news ticker up here. If you want to read it, you can just have a drop-down menu. Over here, you're going to have a time. You can take a look at the year, have it run at a particular speed. Let's pop those. You want to make sure you pop these as they come up. Now, that's going to be one of my kind of gripes with the game, to be honest with you. The game has these things pop up that you just kind of have to click on, and clicking on them gives you DNA points. It's so obvious it's a mobile port in what it tries to do. Not that it's a bad thing that's a mobile port. It was a fun mobile game as far as I'm concerned as it was. But if you're going to bring something over to the PC genre, you want to introduce different mechanics. As of right now, the clicking on bubbles feels very Plants vs. Zombies without the constant need to plant things down and that tension of racing against the zombies coming at you. Because you can pause the game at any time by pressing space. So when bubbles pop up, if there's a lot of them, I can just hit space and then pop them all and hit space to continue. There's no difficulty there. It's just free DNA points. I'd like to see a different way to present DNA points to the player outside of clicking on these little plague bubbles. I feel it's a little bit contrived and obviously a remnant of its mobile origins. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. So let's go ahead into abilities, and we're going to give it heat resistance really early. We don't want it to get too stuck on heat. We can take a look at the disease as it grows, and hopefully we'll be able to do this. It's going to give me a tutorial basically every time we play. So we're going to watch the infection rate go up as time goes on. As more and more people get infected, you'll start to see this go up faster and faster because it will start to spread. Pax plague is spreading from person to person in Saudi Arabia and will grow exponentially. You control the plague indirectly by evolving it. Obviously, since it's more of a simulation, you're not able to directly control anything. You're just kind of trying to nudge it in certain directions as you evolve it. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is possibly give it bacterial resilience. It'll basically give my bacteria a shell to protect it against other climates. Instead of making it specifically good against hot or cold, I think giving it a little bit of heat resistance because of where the bacteria launched itself, and some bacterial resilience in general might be good to get it to spread, you know, a little bit earlier. We also are going to want to look into maybe spreading it in other ways. We have the option to spread it via insect, which would be good in our current situation, a really good bonus because mosquitoes are going to be around a little bit more often. We also have the opportunity to give it to livestock, birds, maybe give it a pathogen through fresh bodies of water, which in Saudi Arabia might not be a great idea. We also have blood-to-blood transmission, really good in poor nations, not so good in other nations, and of course airborne. And arid environments and plane transmission. Actually, airborne might be good, so let's go ahead and give it airborne transmission right now. And we'll start to see things pick up a little bit as it has heat resilience and it goes through airborne. It said right in the airborne thing that through arid transmission it's good. And the good thing too about having arid transmission is that airborne, it's going to go through planes. It's going to transmit through planes, so the earlier we get it, yep, there it is right there. The earlier we can get it to other countries, the better. So we've already had a plane bring the disease over to Australia. Somebody who was infected with the Pax plague ended up going to Australia. So now it's going to start spreading very, very slowly in Australia. In fact, since it's moved off to a different nation already, that's going to have a different climate, though I believe it's still going to be kind of hot there. Yeah, it's still pretty hot there. But we still might want to go ahead and give it a nice little shell. So let's go ahead and give it a nice little shell to keep it protected and hopefully spread it a little bit faster. So the earlier we make it airborne, the earlier you're going to see it spread across the world. And hopefully it'll continue to do that as time goes on. So we've already infected a few thousand in Saudi Arabia, and it's spreading pretty quickly. Luckily, it doesn't really have any symptoms yet, so hopefully people don't notice it. Once people notice it, they'll start, you know, you'll start being told that doctors have discovered this disease. So there's a lot of waiting involved in the game and just watching things kind of happen. It's definitely a game of patience and not one to be rushed. Alright, so we are still kind of spreading it quite a bit. We have a good amount of disease points we could spend it on. I think we'll go ahead and give it to insect spreading. Just because in Australia it's a very arid nation, it's a very humid nation, so that'll make it nice and quick. And we've actually ended up spreading over here to India. That's actually really good. Because India is kind of a poor nation. Okay, we're having things pop up. See what I mean? I can just pause the game and click on them and it won't matter. We are actually spreading quite a bit. So we're going to go ahead and click on all those. We are going all over the world. It's surprising that Saudi Arabia is spreading out that fast, though. Maybe not terribly. Now we're in the Americas, which is kind of a dangerous thing. Because the Americas are going to be where a lot of the medicine's going to come from. So now I think now that we're in a first world country, we're going to give it its first drug resistance. We don't want drugs to be able to do too much. Now, as we click on things, it's going to open up this tree, obviously. You can see we did drug resistance. Now we have 2 options after that. We can go with drug resistance 2, which will eventually open up drug resistance 3. Or we can go with genetic hardening, which makes it much, much more difficult for people to research it. We might want to go with genetic hardening as soon as we can, so that way when it does get discovered, which it has yet to do so right now, but when it does get discovered and people start working on a cure, it's going to be hard for them to work on a cure. And now Canada has it. Wow, holy crap, it is spreading way faster than usual. The first game I played in Canada. It actually took over most of Canada before it actually spread to other nations, because I didn't make it airborne all that much. I actually gave it to birds first, and the birds kind of spread it to North America, and then when I finally gave it airborne, it came across. But it looks like it develops. So this is what I'm talking about. As the disease evolves on its own, it will develop its own symptoms. So it ended up developing the coughing symptom, which is not that good. To get a coughing symptom is kind of dangerous, because it can, in fact, be caught really early now. One of the good ones we're going to want to go for eventually when we can find it is when it does unlock is basically kind of like it creates this mental situation where the people are distrusting and they will not seek out help. And I think it goes from insomnia. So we're actually going to pump points in insomnia and then paranoia next. We're going to go for paranoia so people don't go get help. When paranoia is a symptom, people are way more afraid of going to get help. In a normal checkup, a doctor in Saudi Arabia found a new disease which has been named Pax Plague. It appears to be mostly harmless, but must be investigated further. Other countries are also reporting it. So like I said, as soon as it developed coughing, the world now knows it exists. It's a very obvious symptom. And they're already researching a cure. That's actually kind of scary. So we're going to go ahead and give people paranoia. Hopefully they won't go going to doctors. But I feel like paranoia might be a little bit late at this point to be giving it. But we'll go ahead and start grabbing. Hopefully, once it starts spreading like this, you're going to get a lot of DNA points pretty quickly. Ships are using a sterilization technique. We'd have to give it water resistance if we care about that, but right now I think we don't really need to invest in that because it's already spread via air and planes. So the next thing we want to do is, let's see, random blackouts and fits reduce the patient's ability to function independently, can be fatal. 28 DNA points, or we can give it some genetic hardening. Let's start making it very difficult to research. Now we're playing the game of keep this thing difficult to prevent. But as of right now, it's actually looking a little bit bad for us that they're already looking for a cure. It's a race against the clock at this point, and it's a race that we're probably going to end up losing. So now what we can do here, we can choose this. Pathogen DNA strands reassembled, more work needed to develop a cure. Or pathogen does not reproduce in lab conditions, decrease future research speed. I think I'm going to save for version 2 of it. Whoa. So let's go ahead and grab version 2 right now. So research in lab is going to be massively decreased. And again, the game is going to end up having slow moments. We are more spread than HIV. It's going to have slow moments, and I don't personally mind those slow moments because they don't remain slow all that much. I just don't like what they're trying to do with the busy work of clicking on the bubbles. I wish there was another thing we could do. The Last Federation does a good job at making the game feel like there's a lot going on, because there is a lot going on, but keeping the player involved. And I kind of wish there was more of that. We're doing alright though. We are starting to infect the world pretty massively here. So let's go ahead and keep making this thing very difficult to research against. That's kind of my goal right now, is to stop it from being researched. A lot of Mexico is being kind of destroyed by it right now. A lot of the warmer nations you're going to see have a lot of problems. Alright, the common cold, it's more infectious than the common cold, so we've done a good job at making it infectious. Let's go ahead and give it a shield here. And we can actually make it, give it to birds, livestock. Let's give it more air. Infectious, infective, especially air environments. Played. Let's actually give it some water. It goes through water pretty easily. I think that'll help with infecting the world. The water transmission upgrades those packed plays survive new cleaning techniques and ships. Oh, right. That helps with the ships. I didn't really need that, but well. As long as we continue to spread across the world like we are. Pax Plays has been placed in the RMS watch list. Although not very dangerous, governments warn that a more deadly strain could appear. So it's being watched now even more closely. We're doing a good job at spreading it across the world, I'm not going to lie. I'm very happy with its current situation and spreading. Let's give it a level 3 shell. And even give it some cold resistance. So hopefully over here in North America and Canada, we're going to see it start spreading even more rapidly, which we should. Mutate developed sneezing. So now it's got like common cold systems, coughing and sneezing. That will allow it to spread quickly. As you can see, things are going a little bit crazy over here. The disease is spreading massively. I do want to continue its transmission, so level 2 airborne, and then next is extreme bioaerosol. We need 21 points to get that going, but I'm going to focus on getting it to go through the air. So let's go ahead and evolve it through there. We don't really need to worry about blood to blood because the poor countries are already pretty infected right now. Now we might want to go for blackouts and seizures and stuff. Now we might want to start killing people. Can be lethal. So if we click this, immune suppression, it's going to basically what it's saying here is it's going to have a lot of freedom of mutation. It's going to do its own thing. I think having seizures is going to be good. Let's go with that. What's this? Neuro action frontal cortex. We're basically making this a disease. The way this disease kind of presents itself is coughing and like cold symptoms, and then people start to go insane. So that's what we're going to work on. It's going to be an insanity kind of Pax Plague. Pax Plague make people go insane. So first death, the very first death has happened in Colombia. Whoa, people are dying very, very rapidly. Try to limit it. So Indonesia is trying to limit the spread of the Pax Plague by limiting access in and out of the country. But I feel like it might be a little bit too late for them. The spread is going to be nice. There are 2 ways to fight development of the cure. Basically evolving it. We already know about that. Spain has started to send... Okay, so now the cure is starting to get researched. So what we can do, the only way to stop it, and again, I don't really like this, is by clicking on bubbles. Whenever these little bubbles pop up, that's preventing it from being researched. That feels so contrived in my opinion. I don't really like it. I kind of wish there was another way to kind of interact with it, and hopefully they will come up with something. They have plenty of time to do it. So let's go ahead. Pathogens. We're going to give them medical resistance too, make it even harder to stop. And now every research around the world is trying its damnedest to stop this disease. And that's, now we are literally running against the clock here. As the world starts to research against it. Yeah, it's already 25% complete. That's actually scary that it's already 25% complete. Complete breakdown of the digestive. We need to make this thing as deadly as possible now. It gives you dysentery. It makes you go insane. It gives you diarrhea now, apparently. It evolved diarrhea on its own. The world is almost 100% infected. If we can hit 100%, that'll be the first for me. People are dying in Central Europe faster than new people are being infected. That's interesting. It's worse than the Black Death. I'm surprised we actually infected the world as we did. I didn't expect it. I thought we would be screwed by now. But we're actually doing it. The world is doing well. This is the cure. Which now this is the point though, because we're already, so widespread. Evolve points are not going to come in as quickly anymore. So we might be done. Normal life in Poland is beginning to break down due to the Pax Plague. Cure research is starting. It's just slow. That's good. That's very, very good. Hopefully we can buy ourselves some more time to be more resistant. The new statistics show that Pax Plague is the deadliest plague ever. It has killed over 300 million people worldwide. Worse than smallpox. And people are still trying to research this thing. And infection rate's going down, but the people who are dying is starting to catch up here. I can't really do anything but give it new symptoms, but giving it a new symptom is... At this rate, the symptoms we can give it are so minimal. Yeah, there's no real point. I'm gonna save these points and hope we can get some more. Alright. 9. Is there anything we can grab with this? What's this? The expulsion of infected material through projectile vomiting increases the risk of infection. I guess we could go with that. I would love this right here, but I don't think we're going to be getting 31 DNA points anytime soon. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and try and infect it even faster. Let's spread the infection as fast as we possibly can. Lowering productivity and drawing attention. Well, the Pax Plague already has massive attention. We're about to kill 1 billion people. Pneumonia symptom, okay. But the cure is 75% complete already. I don't know if we're going to be able to stop it. But if we can kill 1 billion people, that'll be a first for me, I think. If we can... Things are very slow for research, and I'm hoping we can stop it. The president is ill with Pax Plague. It is uncertain whether the president can remain in power. Wow, that's a first. Killing the president off. That is rough. The world is so close to being infected. Coughing and vomiting are causing the infected to projectile vomit, increasing the effectivity of Pax Plague. All right. Get a lot of Steam achievements for this particular playthrough. Are we going to do anything else? Is there anything else I can even do at this point? What was that? 95% done. The cure is coming. I don't know if we're going to be able to stop it at this point. 97% done with the cure. Trying to give it other symptoms as best I can at this point, but I think the cure is going to finish. 100% done, the cure. And now it's being deployed worldwide. We're going to see a massive, massive reduction. But we killed, you know, close to 2 billion. Over 1.5 billion people ended up dying. About a quarter of the world's population went down. Oh, give me that. Is there anything I can do? I don't think so. I don't think there is. So we want to give nausea. Give him nausea. So this is our disease now. Remember what it used to look like. Now it's like that. But there's nothing we can do. The world has survived the devastating plague and will soon eradicate Pax Plague forever. Although much of the world is dead, the survivors can rebuild and carry humanity forward. Yep, we ended up killing a lot of people, but as you can see, the plague is over and we were not able to destroy the world. So that's how Plague Inc. Evolved plays, at least in its early access state. Now, obviously, like I said, there's still quite a lot of time left in the development of this game. There's a lot of things, planned features. But in its current state, I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. If you're into this whole strategy simulation genre, and you've never tried Pax Plague, if you've never tried Plague Inc. before, I would highly suggest checking it out. It's not that expensive. 15 bucks isn't too bad. And with all the new features coming, it might end up being really worth it down the line. I can see a lot of replayability. There's already a lot of replayability within the game itself. So I would suggest checking it out if you could. This is definitely a fun game for the strategy and simulation fans out there. I would like to see them try and take a different route for player interactivity outside of clicking bubbles. That just reeks of mobile port. It really, really does. And I would love to see something else happen instead. I don't know what you could do to keep the player engaged outside of clicking on bubbles. I would just like to see something else. Because the bubble clicking just feels so contrived. Works for mobile, not so much for PC. But other than that, it's definitely fun. I have a good time with it, and I think it's something you guys should check out if you're into this type of thing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys, the jury, think down below in the comments, and consider leaving a like. It helps me out a great deal. And I will see all of you guys next time. Bye-bye.